My name is Sanjiv Goyal. Welcome to our show, Confession of a Futurist. In this show, we bring mavericks, thought leaders to talk about the biggest problem humanity is dealing with. We are all dealing with, especially for the last 16 months, with COVID. And COVID pandemic has created some very unique challenges in front of humanity. But more than the challenges, if we think about it, let's look at the problem. The problem is our population is growing. We are going to have 10 billion people in next 20 to 25 years. How are we going to deal with our challenges, which are global economy, health, food, energy, you name it? We have challenges in most of the areas, which we have today, even clean water. So I have invited two phenomenal friends of mine, Ajay Singh and Rupam Shrivastava. They both run a fund, Exponential. Exponential Frontiers Fund is very unique. But let's talk about what is their journey and what have they done so we know how they can help us. So 20 plus years, their job is only to find next unicorn or next technology company or next innovation and how the world is going to receive this technology and change the future. They have run multi-billion-dollar organization, gave great returns to their investors, but the biggest thing is they understand how technology is impacting our world. So let's bring them in and talk to them. How are they going to save the world? Ajay and Rupam, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Sanjiv.
Thank you, Sanjiv.
Thank you for having
me. Glad to be here.
Thank you. So, my first question is, do you have a confession for our audience? We'll start with you, Rupam, first.
Yes. I think both Ajay and I, we are highly optimistic about technology. We believe technology will ultimately solve all our problems. I confess that sometimes the path is not that straight, but we want to hope and believe that the path is ultimately straight, and we will get to a technology utopia in 20, 50 years from now.
So I can finish your line with one thing. There is no straight line on round planet.
Good one.
That's right. And that is why it's a confession.
Absolutely. So we are good. It's always curved. So Definitely. Ajay, what's for you?
My confession. So I'll take a little bit of a different route. So Rupam talked about on our professional side of the things. So in the daytime, I'll tell my friends and everybody that I like Marvel and I like DC, but it's secretly I like Chacha Chaudhary still. That's my confession for the last 20 years being in this country and kind of liking Avengers and Batmans and whatnot.
That's so cool, Ajay. You know, it's phenomenal and it is very contextual too if we talk about today's context and we talk about the challenge in India, and we are not going to talk too much about COVID, but that Chacha Chaudhary is in every single village, in every single place. And this guy is the guy helping so many people.
Exactly.
They are the real hero. The people over there are the real heroes. We are just helping out, sending some support. So it's phenomenal. I'm so glad you mentioned Chacha Chaudhary, and I'm sure a lot of us must be reliving that memory.
Totally.
Well, we are getting comments too that people love it. So that's awesome. Confession of the Futurist show is really about finding solutions and sharing, or at least defining the problem. I understand that we can't solve all the problem, whether you, me, three of us, we are going to solve those problems. So let's define some problems which our audience can help us solve. How's that as an idea for today's show?
Sure.
So there are 4 key areas three of us are very passionate. One is energy, which is a big problem even today. In 20 years is going to be a bigger problem because we are adding 30% more people. Computational power, quantum computing, we talked even earlier, that how it is really going to solve. But before we get to there, how far are we before it will be even real? So what are the challenges to get there? And the last one is infrastructure, which includes food, clean water, and several other associated issues for society. So, and the last one is, of course, our most important and is health. So let's take one so we can go a little deeper and share some ideas so our audience can work on it and find either interesting opportunity, go and solve it, maybe create a new unicorn, maybe create a new social enterprise, whatever they want to do. Should we pick computation or pick quantum computing? What will you think is better for us?
I think perhaps the more challenging problems are around food and energy. And I like to connect them to computing power. So today, almost every person in the world has a tiny computer in their hands, which is their mobile. The costs have gone down, exponential technologies have completely taken over, and everyone at least has access to some computing power. It's not enough in most cases. It just powers WhatsApp, maybe video if you have a great phone.
Maybe watching our show.
Maybe watching our show, listening to our show, right? So there is some computing power in almost every hand on the planet. Perhaps not almost, but yeah. But the same cannot be said about energy and food. The cost of computing have gone down to zero. The cost of content, education has gone down to zero. Today, you can just log on to Khan Academy and you're set for all the classes, K-12. But the same cannot be said about energy and food. Energy still takes, people have to run electric generators, or maybe they don't even have any electricity in their buildings. Energy has not reached the masses. And same as the cost of food has not gone down to zero the way it has for computation power and education. So I think those are the two challenges where some smart minds can focus their energies on. How to use exponential technologies and drive the cost of food and energy down to almost zero levels that computation power has already achieved.
Ajay, what is your take on that?
I want to take a little bit of a different route. So I feel that there is another grand challenge that is ahead of humanity, and we will, the current generation of the people that are able enough to actually do something about it are going to be felt responsible in many ways, and the generations before us, is around climate. Our climate is changing quite rapidly. We all know that it is deteriorating. There are more extreme events happening. Being in the Bay Area, you actually see a lot of it firsthand with a lot of wildfires. We're entering that season already over here right now. So what are we doing about it? So as Rupam alluded earlier, the energy part. So still majority of our electricity is still coming from the sources that are dirty, that are harming our planet, that are harming our climate. So how are we gonna tell our generations coming forward that we left the planet better than what we saw earlier? We are not. We are actually doing completely opposite. So part of the thinking that the engineers and bright minds and actually some of the people that are thinking of taking on this grand challenge should be thinking about how do we tackle that. And some of the modern tools are becoming more able now. With AI and machine learning, you have started seeing over the last 10 years, there are more research papers that are applying deep learning into how to model a climate. Mm-hmm. And some of the countries like US and Japan and UK have those tools for many years, but the problem is even more dangerous for the countries like India and Africa, where the climates are going to impact even more people, and the extremities of that is going to be even more impactful.
Bigger challenges. So
how do we go after those things? So I think that's some of the things that we start seeing. Some of these modern technologies are kind of handling that. But there's a lot more to do, and I really invite entrepreneurs and bright minds to take on that challenge and try solving those.
So, I'm glad you mentioned that topic, and this is one of my favorite topics. And let's go back 1,000 years, 5,000 years ago, when the civilization was happening, and as a human, we were developing things, technology, and where we are today. So everything, human settlement was always near a water body. Either it's a lake or a river. That was the number one requirement. And then gradually we start building the cities away from the places, but still it has to be connected somehow to this water source. And then electricity come along, and we are transporting electricity. And we saw that there is average 20 to 30% loss even after generation in the transmission. Right? That those kind of challenges we are dealing with. Companies like Tesla has shown us that you can build pretty much a self-contained system, including the solar power systems they have developed, including the battery technology they have developed. So I envision a world going forward that we can build cities now, even with today's technology. I know it's not easy to do, but with today's technology, anywhere, without water, without electricity, without anything else. All we need is a place where we can build these large scale cities, or we call it communities, and which has zero wastage. So everything we consume is reused, whether it's water, whether it is garbage, whatever we do. And we build a society based on that. We grow food in the vertical farming. We have solar panels all over. The structure is built very energy efficient, and the energy, whatever it requires, it is produced using solar. And the water is, again, of course, the groundwater, but we are continuing to recycle. So the new water needs is completely reduced or eliminated up to a certain extent. So how far are we from that kind of world? Because we, as an engineer, we know it is possible even today, but at a smaller scale, at a pilot model. Do you see that as a future, or do you think it is too far-fetched?
I don't think it's too far-fetched. I think although I would caveat it by saying that we are still in the early innings of that, there are already some of these demo projects already live. There's one in Japan that people know about. There's one in Netherlands that people know about. But these are demo
very
projects.
Small.
Pretty small demo projects. But they are thinking exactly the way, or exactly the picture that you painted. Can we do a self-contained system where people feel responsible in a way to consume whatever they feel is enough for them to consume, and not do enough waste? Because right now the problem is the waste.
Exactly.
We consume, but we waste a lot. Whether it's in the transportation, whether it is in not eating what is given to us on our plates, all of that is causing so much of like part of the world that is not even getting half of that. So how do we make people think about the world where you consume what you have to consume, not what you waste? And that's where I think the technology elements are there. So the food that goes into that system stays for a longer time into our pantries. The seeds that we use are reusable. The water that we use is portable and reusable. So all of these elements are there. It's just putting together and making sure that the people do the right thing when they have to. So these are demo projects. It's still, as I caveated, but we're not too far away from that reality.
That's awesome. That's great. So Rupam, if I ask you to predict future 20 years from now, can you paint that future for our audience?
Yes. So as I started, we believe in technology solving problems. So I think the first thing that we can very solidly expect are longer lifespans. So I'm talking 20 to 50 years sort of a future. We believe artificial intelligence will take away a lot of repetitive tasks we do. For example, peeling a potato. We are very close to a robot who can do that for us at home, not on an industrial scale. Very simple, repetitive tasks. Unsafe tasks will be taken over by artificial intelligence that can go into a burning building and save someone. The internet will become a thing of the background, just like electricity. Wherever we go in a Western country today, there is always electricity. We take it for granted. Internet will become like that. Computing power will become like that.
So you think Starlink kind of projects will solve the problem of last mile connectivity or all mile connectivity?
Totally. So Starlink will solve it. There are already geostationary satellites where you can connect. It's just expensive right now, but those things exist today. It will become more ubiquitous when technology finally reduces the costs, so that every person on the planet can afford it. Then we'll have a lot of sensory implants in our body. So what Neuralink is doing, we already have implants. If you use a device in your ear to help you with hearing, it's an implant. Although you can take it out, there will be implants under the skin. Sweden has already started a pilot where there's a identification chip which is underneath your skin. There would be exoskeletons where you, or exosuits, your clothes sort of help you. If in case you have a paralytic legs, your clothes can probably help and assist you do your day-to-day tasks. So those kind of things will really change our world.
So you are saying it's almost like not bionic human being, but augmentative technologies which will improve the quality of life we have as a human, whether it's clothes or anything else, even the food or other technologies required for us to have better life.
Yes, and imagine one of the data points is that our eyes can only see a very small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. We can only see what we call the visible spectrum. There is infrared before it, there's ultraviolet after it, and then there are frequencies which are 100 billion trillion times more. Imagine if a goggle can help us see infrared, see the temperature of things around us, how our brain would start adapting to that new sort of information. That is all a bionic human or augmented human, but basically enhancing our current capabilities. Imagine having the sense of a smell of.
So I have one question here, Rupam. I'm glad you brought it up, and Ajay, it goes for you too. So when we talk about, this everything goes back to the learning. 1,000 years ago, we used to think that our brain can handle so much information. Today, even if you and me look back 20 years ago, we never thought our brain can handle so much information and process so fast. We look at our kids, it's changing. But if you see, the learning system hasn't changed. It is still fairly linear. And we need a new or non-linear way of learning. So for all that to happen, what you're talking about, we have to completely reboot, I think, or redesign our learning system. I'm not going to call education, because education is an overly used word in my opinion, because it's all about learning. So what you think is required for humanity to get to that place? How do we create this exponential learning, not just the linear learning?
Yes, that's a very, very important point, because our brains are tuned for linear learning. That is how our brains have evolved, and exponential thinking does not come obviously naturally to us. So that is a big challenge. That is a big challenge. However, there are innovators and entrepreneurs who are focusing exactly on that. So one of the investments I had made many years ago is in Singularity University, which is here in Silicon Valley, and their founders, Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis, have one of their things they're tackling is this shift from linear thinking to exponential thinking. So that is one key example I can mention. But then there are various
several of those
all around the world.
But I was thinking really more like things like Neuralink.
Okay.
Things like when we talk about almost like biohackers, people are talking about different brain enhancing drugs and all of those things, and I'm calling it drug because it really sounds like drug. You're asking people to take part that so you can become better. And I know some of these people personally, and I'm not really able to comprehend how far are we taking this learning? And that's the reason I brought this topic. We have only 2 more minutes to wrap up our session, but I would love to hear take from Ajay too. What you think is the future of learning? Because I believe that's the holy grail. We figure out learning, I'm sure we can create unicorn every day.
Yeah, that's a very big question mark still, that whether science will figure it out before the next 3 billion people land on this planet in 25 years. But the arrow of progress is definitely pointing towards that the smartest people are thinking about it. There are areas which are called neuromodulation, which are the fields that are around this concept of, can you expand your Umwelt? Umwelt means a space where a human brain recognizes all the signals that come to it, whether it's through its eyes and
all the sensors together.
Can you expand that Umwelt? So that's an active field of research where people are actually looking for it, whether it is through expanding the senses, as Rupam mentioned earlier, or even putting some new sensors into it, like a chip that can now process things faster, that can download things, that can upload things. All these things are sort of like areas where people are spending time, but jury's out whether
time will tell.
Yeah, the time will tell for this.
So, any parting thought for our audience, or any challenge you have for our audience, both of you?
I think the one simple thing I would say is think exponentially, solve problems which require exponential solutions. Think about exponential disruptions rather than linear disruptions. Don't make a chip which is 10% faster. Make a chip which is 10 times faster. So think going from 10% to 10 times.
That's a big one. Ajay?
Yes. I would say own more Chacha Chaudhary, I guess. Stay true to yourself, and hopefully you guys don't need to make any confessions 10 years from now. So stay true to that.
No, thank you very much, Ajay and Rupam. I really enjoy talking to you. For our audience, you heard from Rupam and Ajay. They are doing phenomenal work. You can look them up on LinkedIn. You can look them up on their company website. The big thing I have learned today, it's about changing our mindset. This linear mindset is not going to solve the problems of tomorrow. We have to start thinking exponential. Once again, thank you very much, Radio Zindagi. Thank you very much, all of you, to listening to us. Please do share your feedback. And if you want to know more, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. That is Sanjiv Goyal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sanjiv.
Thank you, Sanjiv. Thanks the friends at Radio Zindagi.